Praise the Lord, my beautiful blessed souls. Today is actually August 2nd. I know it's been a couple of days since I did a couple, videos, but I told you I was gonna. Now I've been preparing for this weekend, some good, some bad. Got some memorial stuff, background. Today is August 2nd, so it is the day that my youngest son's father passed away back in 2012. So that is a day. And today, is the day that I celebrate my dad's birthday because it's actually tomorrow on the 3rd. So we ended up celebrating it today. So I always prepare myself. And then there's some other stuff with my siblings and family that has some good and bad going on. So it's a bittersweet weekend, but we're going to stick to it. This August 1st and August 2nd was comparisons. I'm going to read both of them because they have a lot to play with this word. Also, we left off in 1 Samuel chapter 25. We are now in 1 Samuel chapter 26. So now I'm going to read comparisons. We're going to see how this has a lot to do with this. I'm going to read it and show you. Comparisons. What are the standards against which I should compare myself? It's not really helpful to compare yourself to other people because God created each person as a unique individual with their own gifts and talents. We got to remember that. Jesus is the ultimate standard of a good person. No one can fully measure up to Jesus because he is perfect. We got to remember that. Cannot be overly religious with practices, rituals, ritualistic stuff because none of us are meeting the mark. And when I say that, we're pressing, of course, but when none of us actually are meeting it. And we all have strengths and weaknesses, so we have to pay attention. But you can try to be as much like him as possible. Exactly. When you give up everything to be like Jesus, you are consumed with being godly, which will lead you into doing what is good and right. Don't compare yourself with other people. Concentrate on being the best Christian that you can be. Now, 2 Corinthians 3:18, as the Spirit of the Lord works within us daily, we become more and more like him and reflect his glory even more. 1 John 3:2. Yes, dear friends, we are already God's children, and we can't even imagine what we will be like when Christ returns. But we do know that when he comes, we will be like him, for we will see him as he really is. That's 1 John 3:2. And then 1 Corinthians 15:49. Just as we are now like Adam, the man of the earth, so we will secondarily be like Christ, the man from heaven. Now, that is August 1st. I told you it's August 2nd. I don't know when I'm going to put it out. Hopefully, I'll get it out August the 3rd between tonight and tomorrow. Sometimes I post up, but it takes time to post. It don't actually post. I don't know what be going on. I apologize for the delay, but that's the YouTube situation. I can't help that. Comparison 2, which is August 2nd today. That was August 1st yesterday. I didn't do a video. But they both go hand in hand. What are the dangers of comparing myself with others? Now, when it's competition-wise, sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's not. Okay? It's always be good to compare yourself to yourself to try to better yourself. That's me versus me. Instead of, all this other stuff. So, in bettering yourself or whatever, when it comes to Christ, when it comes to whatever you're doing. So what are the dangers? When you compare yourself to others, you take your eyes off Jesus, which will cause you problems. You may want what others have and become jealous and discontented. You may want to be what others are and miss God's plan for who he wants you to be, meaning in your own life. And you might end up thinking that you are better than someone, when sometimes you might think you're less than someone, or they may think they're better than you and you're less than, and become more arrogant. You might want to do what others are doing and be led into sin. A better plan is just to keep your eyes on Jesus, the perfect standard of comparison. Now, 1 Samuel 18:7-8c. 1 Samuel. This was the song. Saul has killed thousands and David his 10,000s. This made Saul very angry. That's why it applies. 1 Samuel 8:20. We want to be like the nations around us, meaning they wanted to be like all the other nations. This is why they wanted to have a king and all this other stuff. But we see that has become an issue for them. Luke 18:11. The proud Pharisee stood by himself. These are Pharisees, the religious, ritualistic people that self-righteous think they're, so greater and so saved, so this, so that. That's the Pharisees, Sadducees, and I think the Sanhedrists. This was, it says Luke 18:11. The proud Pharisee stood by himself and prayed this prayer. I thank you, God, that I'm not a sinner like everyone else, especially like that tax collector over there. So he was specific about his. And 2 Corinthians 13:5 says, examine yourself to see if your faith is really genuine. Test yourselves. So now I'm going to let you see this because this is going to make a lot of sense when we get through with it. So now I'm going to get into it. I'm going to read and we're going to get into what is going on, and I'll be able to talk to you more about what is going on in my life. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope they had a good weekend. These past couple of days, I have been running around trying to get stuff prepared for my dad for this weekend, to celebrate him. He just turned 71, and, to be in, the father that he was, for me, and just to celebrate him and have the memories while he is here, because we have to appreciate these people while they are still here, love on them while they are still here. So now, then the Zephonites came to Saul at Gibeah, saying, is not David hiding himself on the hill of Hachilah, which is on the east of Jeshimon? So Saul rose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph with 3,000 chosen men of Israel to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. Then Saul encamped on the hill of Hachilah, which is beside the road on the east of Jeshimon. But David remained in the wilderness. When he saw Saul had come after him into the wilderness, David sent out spies and learned that Saul had indeed come. Then David rose and came to the place where Saul had encamped. And David saw the place where Saul lay with Abner, the son of Ner, the commander of his army. Saul was lying within the encampment, while the army was encamped around him. Then David said to Ahimelech the Hittite and to Joab's brother Abishai, the son of Jeroah, who will go down with me into the camp to Saul? And Abishai said, I will go down with you. Don't you want people like that don't mind going with you? Please, don't let that go over your head. Into the fire, the furnace with you, to get it out the mud with you. Don't, honey, please do not take them people for granted, because when they get tired, they will kindly not be bothered. So David and Abishai went into the army by night, and there lay Saul sleeping within the encampment, with his spear stuck in the ground at his head. And Abner and all the army lay around him. Then Abishai said to David, God has given your enemy into your hand this day. This is Abishai, right? Now please let me pin him to the earth with one stroke of the spear, and I will not strike him twice. So he wants to go ahead and end it. Now, David, at the other hand, I'm quite sure he was thinking that our natural selves would think, let's just end this. I'm tired of running around. But Abishai was a little like Peter. And David said, as the Lord lives, the Lord will strike him, or his day will come to die. So we're not going to do that. We're going to let God handle it. This is how we do it. Or he will go down into battle and perish. See, David's still trusting in his hand that he don't have to take his life, because God is going to handle it, whether he take his life, whatever. So the Lord forbid that I should put out my hand against the Lord's anointed. Remember, he's still God's anointed, and we have to be careful of that. But take now the spear that is in his head on the jar of water. Let us go. So David took the spear and the jar of water from Saul's head, and they went away. No man saw it or knew, nor did they awake, for they were asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord had fallen upon them. Now, see, this is David showing to him once again, because remember the last incident. So now Saul's still after him. He tells him outwardly, he's not going to do this, but then he's still doing it. This is why you got to pay attention to these things too. Because outwardly folks will be like, and then inwardly it's not. They still with the foolishness and the shenanigans, and you got to stop with the shenanigans. You really do. After a while, you can't keep going back and forth. Let them be. So then David went over to the other side and stood far away at the top of the hill with a great space between them. And David called to the army and to Abner, the son of Ner, saying, will you not answer Abner? Then Abner said, who are you who calls to the king? And David said to Abner, are you not a man who is like you in Israel? Why then have you not kept watch over your Lord the king? Meaning he was able to get that close to him, and you supposed to be guarding him, and you didn't. So for one of the people came to destroy the king, your Lord, meaning, he could have. This thing that you have done is not good. So he's letting the guy know, Saul's right hand, you allowed me to get that close to kill him. What was you doing? You slipping on your pimping. You supposed to be his people. You supposed to be helping him, watching out for him. What is you doing? And this is his enemy. Remember, at this time, as the Lord lives, you deserve to die, because you have not kept watch over your Lord, meaning he should be killed. The Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is and the jar of water that was in his head. See? He's letting them see, like, if it was David, you wouldn't have got that far. And this is what he's trying to let them see, because see, you after me. But you got all these other people around you, but you after me. And I was the one protecting you. I was the one doing it. So you got to pay attention. Saul recognized David's voice and said, is this your voice, my son David? And David said, "It's my voice, my Lord, O King." And he said he still respects him. See, no matter what's going on, he still respects him. And he said, "Why does my Lord pursue after his servant? For what have I done? What evil is on my hands?" He's asking him again. "Now therefore let my Lord the King hear the words of his servant. If it is the Lord who has stirred you up against me, may he accept an offering. But if it is men," meaning if men are telling you to do these things and not the Lord, "may they be cursed before the Lord. For they have driven me out this day, that I should have no share in the heritage of the Lord, saying, go serve other gods. Now therefore let not my blood fall to the earth away from the presence of the Lord. For the King of Israel has come out to seek a single flea, like one who hunts a partridge in the mountains." So he's calling himself. You still after me. You still hounding me. You still after me for what? I'm a minute issue, a minute problem that you continuously, like, I'm not even after you. Why do you keep hounding me? People keep pursuing you for no reason. So then Saul said, "I had sinned. Return my son David, for I will no more do you harm." But this ain't the first time he said that. "Because my life was precious in your eyes this day, behold, I have acted foolishly and have made a great mistake." Sounds great. And but is you gonna do it? This is why, when you keep going back and forth with folks doing the same thing, this is what it is. And David answered and said, "Here is the spear, O king. Let one of the young men come over and take it. The Lord rewards every man for his righteousness and for his faithfulness. For the Lord gave you into my hand today," meaning I could have killed you. "And I will not put out my hand against the Lord's anointed. Behold, as your life was precious this day in my sight, so may my life be precious in the sight of the Lord. And may he deliver me out of all tribulation." Then Saul said to David, "Bless you, my son David. You will do many things, and you will succeed in them." So David went his way, and Saul returned to his place. But see, this is outwardly speaking to him, telling him this, outwardly being friendly, outwardly, so-called, whatever. But inwardly, he hates him. He can't stand him. This is what this is. Pay attention. Always got something stirring. Always trying to be slick. Always trying to do some stuff. This is what this is. Now, this passage echoes some of the same themes, right, in chapter 23 and 24. Then the locals of the wilderness, Ziph, told Saul where David and his men were hiding. Exactly. In another time and place, Saul chased David. David had the chance to kill him then, but refused to touch the Lord's anointed. Saul admits that David is righteous and lives peacefully. So, why you keep after me and I'm living peacefully? But usually that's when they're going to be after you, when you're living peacefully. It's sad, but it's here. So, 1 Samuel starts the same. David and his men are hiding in the wilderness. The locals report a presence of Saul, either driven out by his irrational fear of David or the evil spirit of God sent him. Now, Saul forgets what he owes David and gathers an army to chase him. So he forgets that he owes him the respect, he owes him the honor, that he hasn't done anything to him. And this is what this is. This is what this will look like in your life. So David's scouts find Saul's encampment and bring David. And David looks down and sees Saul sleep. And to his general Abner, David asks for one of the two men to volunteer to sneak into the camp, Saul's camp. His nephew Abishai agrees, and the pair, of course, make their way to the sleeping bodies of the Israelite soldiers to stand directly beside Saul and Abner. Abishai sees Saul's spear and tells David this is the moment to kill the king. I mean, let's be done with this. Let's just go ahead. Let's kill him. Let's be done with it. Let's go on about our lives. Let's not even continue with this. But of course, David knows, although he is that good friend to go down in there, sometimes them be the ones that'll ride or die. At times, they gonna ride out. But sometimes they jump the gun. So we gotta wait. Why? This is not a normal situation. God's hands is in it. We gotta wait. We gotta let God do what he gonna do. David knows that in his timing, God is going to deliver him. He don't know when, where, or how, but he knows. So again, David refuses. It would be a sin to murder the Lord's anointed king, and God will punish anyone who does so. So David knows if he does something to him, that's going to be on him. So he better not. Same thing with Saul. But David does take the spear, as well as Saul's water jug, and he and Abishai creep away. David climbs a nearby hill in safe distance from the camp and calls down to Abner while holding Saul's spear to let him see. David chastises Abner for not protecting the king, his king. Saul calls out because he's still his king to him. So even when we're in situations with whoever, they're still who they are in our lives. And we have to have a whole, a certain amount of respect for them in the position they hold in our life, whether it is the president, whether it is the bosses, whether it is family and friends. If they hold a position Like God has given them for whatever reason in your life, there is a certain amount of respect that they still must have. So, as he has done before, Saul immediately confesses that he is wrong. He's guilty, but he's not changing. I'm just saying, this is what happens. A lot of times things can be reconciled if folks will stop change behavior. And that's what repentance is. And God has the biggest issue with us with this, because we can act it from others, but we also ourselves have to do it when it comes to him. And him first. Why? Because we can sit here and be like, oh, we sorry, and not with him and with everybody else. This is what it is. So he promises not to harm David and invites him to return home. David ignores this because he already knows. After leaving Saul's spear, where it can be easily retrieved, David says that his trust for the reward and protection is in the Lord. Right? I can't trust you. This means he expects nothing good from the king. Exactly. And after a certain time, you can't expect nothing good from people, because they keep showing you who they are over and over again with the stupidity. He emphasizes that he has proved once again that he will not harm Saul. Saul gives David a generic blessing, of course, that's what they do, and they part peacefully. So when David pleaded his case before Saul, he says that his exile is akin to demand to serve other gods. And this has a lot to do with it too. He is kept from worship at the tabernacle, which is another thing, because remember, he is a warrior. He's out there in battle. He's not able to come in because he's considered unholy. He has to go cleanse himself before. Now, to stay out of Saul's reach, David decides to take his men and families to Gath, and to the Philistine city that serves idols. Ironically, David is safe among his people who made reputation fighting than his own nation. And sometimes this is sad, because you'll be more protected with your enemies, some of these people you've had issues with before, than you would the new people, because depending on what's going on, this is how it looks. And that is what that is looking like. So this is when you have enemies over there, have people here, and you just kind of, you know what I'm saying, dealing with the situation the best way that you can, because until God makes a move and does something in your life, you know, you got to wait. David's doing all he can, but he has to wait on God. And sometimes this will be the case in your life. So sometimes you won't see stuff happening because you just have to wait and trust on the Lord. He will do it in his time. Now, is that an easy thing sometimes? No, it is not. It does get difficult. It does get exhausting. We can do it. We can wait. We got to figure it out. So now we're going to break this down, and we're going to go into this, you know, really and truthfully, and look at it. And see, sweating like crazy, what is really going on here. I got to go to the beach today, y'all, when I was out with my dad. It was nice. So now, this is one of the most richest character-revealing chapters in David's life. It is a moment where God tests his restraint. This is what happens when folks is testing your patience and your nerves, his honor, his spiritual maturity. Below is a full-length breakdown. We're going to look at it spiritually, generationally, culturally, psychologically, and prophetically. We're going to break this down. Now, David proves he is ready for the throne not by not killing Saul, but by demonstrating self-control. So this is one of the tests that God is taking him through honor and spiritual intelligence in the face of injustice, meaning even though you were wrong, you're still handling it the way you handle it. Now, this chapter shows that your character is tested most when your enemy is vulnerable, meaning when you have a chance to do whatever to get back, then this is what that's at. Now, chapter 1, 1 Samuel 26. Saul again pursues David to kill him. David secretly enters Saul's camp. Of course, he's sleeping, but he sees the perfect opportunity. But instead, he takes the spear, of course, and they part ways. So again, this is the second or third time that he does this. Now, psychologically and emotionally, David's restraint is supernatural. It is not just him, because David is exhausted by this point. Why? Because he's being hunted, he's betrayed, he's living as a fugitive. Have you ever had a life where you felt this way? A time in your life. Yet when he sees Saul asleep, his emotions say, "End this now," of course. But his men said, God delivered Saul into your hands, so they amping it. But his circumstances say, "This is your chance." But David's spirit says, "No, I will not destroy the Lord's anointed." This is an emotional mastery. It is a supernatural maturity. This is leadership, because this is leading under pressure. Saul's instability is exposed. Saul's behavior is cyclical, meaning rage, pursuit, temporary repentance, and repeat. So he has a cycle of, and we can see these patterns in our own lives, whether it's this one or others. This is a pattern of someone spiritually tormented, insecure, and threatened by David's calling. Like I said, you can look at it from a point of view of you keep going through the same old situations with people over and over again. Sometimes you just have to distance yourself. You can't continue to just, you ain't got to argue, you ain't got to bicker, you ain't got to fight. You just leave it alone, walk away from it, and just be like, I'm done with it. That's it. Generational and lineage layer, David breaks the generational pattern. David comes from a lineage of warriors, meaning the tribe of Judah. But he refuses to use violence to secure his destiny. So this is what this is about, because a lot of times we think battles fight. Sometimes the battle is restraint. This is what God has shown us. He breaks this generational curse of self-promotion, meaning I'm going to take it. I'm going to hustle my way through it. I'm going to go on, in the street and get it. The generational curse of taking matters into one's own hands, because a lot of times when we have control issues, I have to find myself about that. And then the generational curse of revenge. Now, David's restraint becomes the foundation for the messianic lineage, a lineage defined not by force, but by righteousness. There's a difference. Saul represents a dying dynasty, meaning Saul's line is collapsing because he disobeys God. He operates in jealousy. He fights God's chosen, and he refuses correction. So this could be, when you look at it, yourself, others, whatever. In this chapter, it shows the transfer of spiritual authority from Saul's house to David's house. Now, cultural and historical layer, killing a king was culturally unthinkable. Why? Because that's treason. You could be killed. So in ancient Israel, the king was seen as God's representative. This is why touching the king was touching God's order, the rightful order of things. Killing a king was treason, also sacrilege. So you can die, you can be killed. So David's refusal wasn't just spiritual, it was culturally shocking that he was saying, I will not rise to the power the way the nations do. Why? Because they still all a part of Israel. They still all the same people. It's just, this is like your family and friends fighting amongst themselves. I will not rise to the power that way nations do. This sets Israel apart from surrounding kingdoms where assassinations were common. So then we were just talking about comparisons, right, with our lives and how we see things and how we do things. And that's why this is so important. Now, spiritual warfare, this is not battle of swords, it is the battle of spirits. So now Saul is operating under insecurity, jealousy, paranoia, and demonic torment. So this is what Saul is, and you can see this in people when you're dealing with them and within yourself if you're dealing with this yourself. David is operating under obedience, discernment, humility, and divine timing. So he's being restrained, he's waiting, he's, doing what he needs to do. This moment reveals the difference between an anointed leader and a rejected leader. The enemy always tempts you with premature elevation, meaning to take it, to grab it, to take it, to knock everybody off. That's I gotta hustle, I gotta knock somebody off, kill them, destroy them, get them fired in order to, promote myself. Now, David could have ended his suffering. He could have secured the throne and silenced his enemy. But premature elevation is a demonic bait. Why? Because you'll get it, but you won't keep it, and you have a lot of issues with it. Please do not let that go over your head. David chooses process over the shortcuts. Yes. And a lot of times that is so hard. It is not, because it could take some time sometimes, y'all. But he's doing it the right way, even though it takes longer, because sometimes that's what it look like in your life, where your breakthroughs is not coming through like you think and want them to, because you're going through the test, you're going through the process. That's what it is. Prophetically, David's decision prophesies the nature of Christ. David refuses to kill his enemy. Jesus teaches us to love your enemies. David spares Saul. Jesus spares those who crucify him. David trusts God's time. And Jesus says, my hour has not yet come. So when your time has come, whether it's in comparison in your life to others or whatever, it will come when it's your turn, when it's your time. This is what this is. So Saul's spear symbolizes failed authority. David takes Saul's spear, not to use it, but to show him. Your weapon cannot harm me. Your authority is slipping. The spear represents Saul's kingship, Saul's power, and Saul's aggression. David's holding it is prophetic, meaning the kingdom is shifting. He already knows it. He just don't want to let it go. Personal application is when we are being tested, because a lot of times we are in these seasons, when you're being tested in the presence of vulnerability, people who hurt you are spiritually asleep. You could expose them, confront them, or retaliate. But God is testing our restraint. So your elevation will come through character, not combat. And that's why they say your enemies are the ones who help elevate you, because depending on how you do with the test with them is going to be how you're going to move forward or not. Your elevation will come through character, not combat. Like David, you are being shaped into a leader whose authority comes from spiritual intelligence, emotional discipline, generational healing, and obedience to God's timing. Although it may seem like 10, 15, 20, 30 years, but okay, it makes sense. I mean, when we look in the Bible, 40 years for Moses, 30 years for Jesus, I forget how many. Honey, folks was waiting a long time, a day and a half. Oh, I see something flying. So now we're going to look at it. Our enemies are confirming our calling. Saul chased David because David was chosen. Opposition is evidence of destiny. So whenever you see a lot of stuff going on, You know, God's watching how you handle the opportunity to strike back. The refusal to retaliate is what qualifies you for the next level. So this is what this is about. Now, the final summary. Restraint is a weapon. Honor protects destiny. Timing is everything. Character is tested. When your enemy is vulnerable, elevation comes through obedience, not through shortcuts. So David proves he is ready for the throne by not killing Saul, by honoring God's order, and even when the order seems unfair. Because a lot of times we see and it's not. We waiting, we going through things, and it's like, dang, when is this? And I know I be feeling like that. So this is what this is. I hope that this word was a blessing to you guys. Like I said, I just came back, so I may be posting some stuff up later or when I get a minute. I'm hoping that it is going to eventually post this on there. I don't know if it's going to be today or tomorrow, but I did get to celebrate my dad's birthday. I did get to see my granny. She's going to be 93, y'all. When it comes to my dad, he just turned 71. So it's like, it's a lot going on in my life. I'm getting to the point where he's getting older. We're having these talks about stuff. You know how that go. I'm not at an age, you know, when you're trying to figure out what's going on with your parents, when you get in this age, you got to figure out what's going on with them, because you got to take care of them, and you got to make sure that they're straight, because they made sure you were straight. Now, even when it comes to this situation, handling and battling in your life, in the godly and the spiritual, with people, places, and things, with yourself, with your family, friends, it is a lot. It can be a lot. Also, I went to visit one of my friends. She's going through some things right now. And, you know, it just makes you think about, you know, a lot. Like I said, the last time, at a certain age in your life, to not be doing certain things, not to be in certain same cycles and patterns with people, places, and things, whatever that may be or look like in your life, because it is a time out. Playtime is over. We too old, we too grown to keep doing the same old things over and over again. If we know certain things you like, I don't like, let's just respect each other. Let's just, you know, treat each other like we're supposed to. If not, let's just not. But to continue to do the same things over and over again, it comes a time out where that time gets worn out and folks just get tired, and you just want to move forward and just not even be bothered, because nobody's going to sit around and put up with foolishness forever, whether it's you or anyone else. No one is obligated or have to do those things. Now, if it's a godly ordained situation, it may be, because certain people, places, and things, you may have to treat and do differently, like we was talking about with the comparison. And comparisons in our lives, looking at certain things, you know, some folks may think it's so wonderful over here or over there, and it's not. You know, you got to work it. You got to, you know, ask God to help you with it. You're not going to have all the answers, the resources, and all the situations. It would never always be a perfect scenario or situation, but you just got to ask God to help you how to maneuver it in spite of it, and you make do with what you have the way you can, and do it the best way you can. And that's in your own personal life, and that's handling others as well, because when you're going through things, it can be very, you know, strenuous at times, you know, and trying to handle things in a diplomatic way. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We're human. I tell people, I try my best. I do. And I ain't gonna sit and say sometimes I don't get upset. Sometimes I don't. I try not to. Most people who know me, they know me. But then they know there's other side of me. I try not to let that come out. I try to, you know, ask God to help me with that. And if not, I try to separate myself or move, you know, myself out of those type of situations if it's a consistent thing. Sometimes you have to cut those situations out of your life, because you're putting too much time, money, energy, and effort into it. And if you're not seeing any change and it's not moving forward, then you may have to go ahead and dismiss it, because it could be what's keeping you back. So, but you got to have discernment. You have to ask God about which ones to cut, which ones to keep, how to do whatever. And you got to move forward from there, because, you know, after a while, you just have to figure out something for your own life. Why? Because you don't need to have all of these stresses all the time. I tell people there's a certain amount of stress you're supposed to have in life. Don't get me wrong. And I don't say stress to say it like that. I'm just saying everyday life situations. But there's a certain level of the extra unnecessary stuff that you don't necessarily have to, and those be the issues and burdens, you know, that you don't have to carry, or the battles that are not yours and you don't have to fight, because those are the ones God has to fight. So you have to put them in God's hands and know which ones is which. And even for the ones who are good in your life, to love them, as well as the ones who, you know, put you through some things. and making life, kind of difficult, because we're difficult at times. God knows we're difficult with him. So, and it's how to deal with difficult people in difficult situations. And I'm learning with my triggers and different things. I told you about the class I took last week. So it was 2 weeks straight. And it's showing us how to do certain things. Now, does that always work that way? No. Is God working on me because I'm still in process? Yes, because that's what that looks like. And remember, all habits are easy because there's something you already knew. So changing it will take some time. They say even with people who are, going through addiction, relapse is normal. It's a part of the process because they know when you're trying to do something different, even within your own life, for habits and thoughts and patterns. Relapsing is normal because it's a part of the process. But you have to look at when you relapse, what's going on, whether it's drinking, whether it's smoking, party, lying, still, whatever it is, in your life. It could be any, numerous of things that you may be doing that, you know what I'm saying, you're trying to work on, or God's helping you get out of your life, work on for your good. And you have to pay attention to it. So I hope that this word was a blessing to you guys. I may show up some pictures. Well, I don't know, because the pictures I can't do, but the video I can. I don't think I took the video. No, I didn't take no video with my dad. But I did take a video when I was on the beach. So I might put that one up. I do have mainly photos of us and, the food and enjoying ourselves. But I can't put the photos up. But I do normally put them on I do have Snapchat, Facebook. I do have Instagram, so you can see them up there. But other than that, I hope that you guys enjoyed your weekend. I hope you got to enjoy the sun, this wonderful, beautiful weather that we're having. I hope you got to, spend time with the Lord, evaluate your lives, but we have to have time to relax, relate, release, because we have to have balance. You can't just be working and hustling all the time and not have time to enjoy life. God put us here to still enjoy life and not to always be in fight or flight mode, to actually be able to enjoy life. And we just got to find that balance of how to live holy, to honor God, have balance, have friends, have people in our lives, in different things. And, sometimes things will be changing in our lives. I see, even with my friends and the way that rolls, certain people, got moved around. And that's, depending on where I am and what's going on and what God is showing me. But that's the way it has to be sometimes. And it's for your better because, I need to have more godly friends, which is kind of iffy skiffy. And I'm still healing. So trust issues, whatever. Loving people, forgiving them but not forgetting, different things like that. So being able to have relationships, be healthy with them on my end, as well as them be healthy and whole on their end, and meeting them where they are and being able to respect it, but understanding that if there is issues, we need to discuss it, we need to figure it out, and knowing when to hold, fold, whatever we need to do in all of these scenarios, okay? Because we can't just keep stopping our lives and our healing and our growth, and breaking ourselves down and moving backwards. And instead of, we want to be moving forward, or if God has us standing still, learning from where we're standing at. So with that being said, we are bruised and not broken. I hope that this word was a blessing to you guys. Be blessed in Jesus' name. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will be trying to get more out eventually this week. I had a lot of running around. We did enjoy ourselves though. We ate good. We had a good time. My dad is funny. He is a trip. He gets on my nerves, but I love him to pieces because he is just something. He is a mess. He still think he's young, y'all. You can't tell that man he ain't young. I mean, not to say he's old, but I'm just saying he is just like, honey. But anyway, love you guys. Be blessed in Jesus' name. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. His birthday is actually tomorrow. I may try to get some photos of him with his little king hat and his little thing on him, but he was trying to go out and hang with his people, so I had to let him do his thing. And I love you guys, and I hope that this word is a blessing to you. It was a blessing to me. And bless in Jesus' name. Bruised and not broken. Love you guys. Later.